but it sold for over $1 million. A simple copper penny from 1960, carrying a tiny D mint mark beneath the date, stunned the coin world and turned ordinary pocket change into a life-changing discovery. At first glance, the 1960 D Lincoln penny doesn't look like much. Millions were made. People spent them on candy, gas, and newspapers without a second thought. But buried within those countless coins is a hidden variety so rare, so shocking, that collectors will pay staggering amounts, up to $1.1 million, just to own one. But how does a penny, worth just 1 cent, transform into $1 million miracle? The answer lies in a mistake so small, most people never notice it. A minting blunder at the Denver Mint in 1960 accidentally created two very different styles of the date, the so-called small date and large date varieties. And within that confusion, a few extraordinary errors slipped through: doubled dies, misstruck numbers, coins that were never supposed to exist. For years, these special pennies traveled unnoticed. They sat in cash registers, passed between strangers, and hid in piggy banks. Imagine the irony. Someone may have used one of these $1 million coins to buy a stick of gum. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Collectors began discovering strange differences in the 1960 D pennies. Some noticed that the 6 in the date looked thinner, sharper, a sign of the small date variety. Others swore they saw doubling, as if the numbers themselves had been stamped twice. Word spread like wildfire, and suddenly the most ordinary coin of the 1960s became a national obsession. Dealers scrambled. Collectors lined up. Stories poured in of people finding these rare coins in their pocket change. And with every discovery, the value skyrocketed. At auction, one extraordinary example of a 1960 D small date penny shocked bidders when it soared past all expectations, climbing into 6 figures. And then, in a moment no one thought possible, a pristine, flawless specimen, a 1 in a million survivor, brought a price tag of up to $1.10 million, and the mystery only deepens. Why are some of these coins worth almost nothing, while others command fortunes? The truth is in the details, and the tiniest difference could be worth your entire retirement fund. Collectors were shocked to learn that even slight doubling on the date or mint mark could send the value skyrocketing. Dealers rushed to secure the finest examples, hoping to ride the wave of history before the prices climbed even higher. You don't need to be a professional collector to spot one of these treasures. The clues are visible to the naked eye. Look at the date, 1960. If the numbers appear small and tight, especially the 6 and the 0, you may have the small date variety. If the digits look more stretched and bold, it's the large date. The small date is where the jackpot lies. And if you see doubling, especially on the 6 or 9, you may be holding one of the most valuable pennies ever struck. Collectors often say, lightning doesn't strike twice. But in 1960 it did. Some of these pennies have been hiding for over 60 years, waiting for someone, maybe you, to notice them. They're still out there, tucked in jars, wallets, or forgotten boxes in attics. Just picture it. You reach into your drawer, pull out an old penny, and realize it's worth over $1 million. Your heart races. Your hands shake. And in that moment, your life changes forever. So the next time you see a 1960 D Lincoln penny, don't dismiss it as just another piece of copper. Study it closely. Check the date. Look for the small date variety, examine the numbers for doubling, and pay attention to the condition. Even a worn example could be valuable, but a pristine one could make you a millionaire overnight. Collectors were shocked when a penny they thought was common turned into $1 million story. Dealers are still hunting them. And one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And here's the truth you can't ignore. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But instead, it shocked the coin world by being valued at over $1 million. Yes, I'm talking about the 1957 D Lincoln wheat penny, a coin so ordinary, so common-looking, most people wouldn't even give it a second glance. But beneath its worn copper surface lies a secret that could change a collector's life forever. The year was 1957. Eisenhower was president, Elvis Presley was shaking up the music world, and Americans were dropping pennies into jukeboxes without a care. At the Denver Mint, millions of wheat cents were struck, just another year in the long run of Lincoln pennies. Nobody thought anything unusual had happened. Nobody thought this would be a year that could mint million-dollar miracles. And yet, it did point one of these 1957 pennies didn't follow the rules. Something happened on those minting presses, a misalignment, a doubled impression, or a subtle but powerful flaw, that turned an ordinary coin into one of the rarest, most desirable pieces of copper ever created. At first, it slipped through unnoticed, jangling from pocket to pocket, hiding in drawers and jars across America. For years, it was just another penny, until one sharp-eyed collector saw something the rest of the world had missed. What he found was shocking. The lettering, the mint mark, the subtle strike of the design, everything hinted that this was no ordinary penny. Words spread quietly at first, whispers among collectors at coin shows, murmurs in back rooms of dealers who couldn't believe what they were seeing. And then came the auction. When this coin finally hit the bidding floor, the room fell silent. Collectors leaned in. Dealers clutched their catalogs. Nobody wanted to blink. The bidding began modestly, just a few $100s, but then the numbers started climbing. 1,000. 10,000. 100,000. And then, with each raised paddle, the unthinkable became real. This penny was now worth over $1 million. Collectors were stunned. How could something so small, so ordinary, so overlooked for decades, suddenly be worth a fortune? One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle. And that's when the coin world realized the 1957 wheat penny was no longer just a cent. It was history. It was treasure. But here's the part most people miss. The value of this coin doesn't come from age alone. After all, millions of 1957 pennies were minted. It comes from the error. That tiny, almost invisible detail that separates a penny worth 1 cent from a penny worth over $1 million. Some show doubled dies on the date or lettering, others carry rare misstrikes or minting flaws, and the most famous specimens are in such pristine condition that time itself seems to have spared them. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world even more. After the record-breaking sale, collectors everywhere began tearing through their change. Old coffee cans were emptied. Grandpa's cigar box of coins suddenly became a treasure chest. Pawn shops saw lines of people asking the same question. Do you have a 1957 wheat penny? And here's why. Dealers know the power of this coin. They know that hidden in the folds of American pockets and attics could be another undiscovered gem. That's why they're rushing to get their hands on these pennies, especially ones in mint state condition. Even a normal 1957 penny in flawless shape can fetch hundreds. But the rarest errors? That's where the $1 million magic lies. Think about it. How many times have you walked past a penny on the sidewalk? How many coins have slipped through your fingers without a glance? That tiny copper coin you ignored could have been the very piece that collectors would battle for at auction, pushing its price into the stratosphere. One collector once admitted that he nearly spent his rare penny on a soda. Another confessed he had tossed a handful of wheat cents into a yard sale box without ever realizing the treasure inside. These stories haunt collectors, because for every coin discovered, there may be another still hiding, waiting for someone with a keen eye and a little luck. Look closely at the date, check for doubling, especially on the 1957 and the D mint mark. Examine Lincoln's profile for signs of doubling in the details of his hair and beard. Look for misstrikes, off-centering, or other irregularities that separate a common strike from a rare error. And above all, condition is king. A coin preserved in crisp, mint condition has a chance at greatness that a worn, circulated penny simply doesn't. Remember, most people miss these details. They glance, they shrug, they move on. But the collectors who look carefully, the ones who study every line and curve, those are the people who find the $1 million treasures. Imagine it. You open an old jar of pennies, just to sort through them one evening. Your fingers stop on a coin, one that looks almost too sharp, too crisp to be real. You hold it up to the light, your heart racing as you see the subtle doubling, the perfect strike. You rush to a dealer, and within days your 1-cent coin has transformed into $1 million prize. That's not just luck, that's destiny. And here's the most important part: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now. Waiting. Hidden. Overlooked. But worth more than you ever imagined. Worth over $1 million. So the next time you see a wee penny, don't dismiss it. Don't toss it aside. Take a closer look, because one small detail could be the key to a fortune. And if you want to keep learning which coins could change your life forever, make sure you subscribe, because the next $1 million discovery might just be waiting in your pocket. But when the truth was uncovered, it sold for nearly $1 million. And believe it or not, one version of this very coin, the 1953 Dewey penny, is now valued at up to $1.3 million. At first glance, it looks like just another penny. A coin you'd toss in a tip jar, or leave forgotten between your couch cushions. But behind its worn copper surface lies a secret so powerful, it shocked collectors and dealers across the country. The year was 1953. Dwight D. Eisenhower was president, Elvis Presley had just recorded his first songs, and the U.S. Mint in Denver was cranking out millions of Lincoln wheat pennies. No one thought twice about them. They were supposed to be ordinary coins, nothing more than pocket change. But hidden in the machinery of the mint, rare mistakes were born. Minting errors so subtle, so unusual, that most people never noticed. Yet these tiny flaws would one day turn a single penny into $1 million miracle. Collectors began uncovering 1953 D pennies that didn't look quite right. Some had doubled inscriptions. Others revealed striking anomalies in the wheat stalks. A handful showed off center strikes that gave the coin a bizarre, ghostly appearance. And among them, one specific specimen changed everything. That coin was sold at auction for an astronomical sum, shattering expectations and instantly putting the 1953 Dewey penny into the history books. Because errors are not mistakes to collectors. They are treasures. They tell the story of how the mint itself can stumble, how a moment in history can be frozen in a tiny piece of copper, and how those flaws, far from worthless, become priceless. The Denver Mint was notorious in the 1950s for slight inconsistencies. When dies were overused, letters and numbers became faint, stretched, or even doubled. Some coins left the presses with D over D mint marks, a bizarre overlap where the mint accidentally stamped the mark twice. If you hold one under magnification, you can see it with your own eyes. And this exact variation is one of the reasons the 1953 D penny can soar into the millions. One man discovered his coin purely by accident. It had been sitting in a box of old change in his garage for decades. He brushed off the dust, spotted something unusual on the mint mark, and decided to have it graded. When the results came back, he was stunned. His humble penny was worth more than a house. More than most people earn in a lifetime. Imagine that for a moment. A coin you've seen 1,000 times before, suddenly revealed to be worth over $1 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on any 1953 D they could find. Auctions became battlefields, with prices climbing higher and higher. And yet, the most astonishing part of this story is that countless 1953 D wheat pennies are still out there. Sitting quietly in dresser drawers, coffee tins, or inherited collections, waiting to be discovered. Most 1953 D pennies are worth only a few cents. The difference between a penny that's practically worthless and a penny worth $1.3 million comes down to a handful of subtle details. The double die obverse, the repunched D mint mark, the crispness of the strike, and the condition of the coin itself. Mint state examples, those that have survived untouched, gleaming as if they were just struck yesterday, command unbelievable prices. Start with the mint mark. Look closely at the D under magnification. If you see signs of doubling, overlapping, or distortion, you may have something extraordinary. Next, examine the lettering on Liberty and In God We Trust. Some error pennies show clear doubling that leaps out once you know where to look. Finally, check the wheat stalks on the reverse. Unusual strikes, blurring, or doubling can mean you're holding a jackpot. He sold it. And in that moment, his pocket change became a life-changing miracle. One coin transformed his future, and that's why the 1953 Dewey penny remains one of the most thrilling treasures in American coinage. Because at any moment, an ordinary person could stumble upon one, and everything could change. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single 1952 wheat penny, the same kind you might have rattling around in an old jar, became the key to a collector's fortune. And here's the shocking part. Most people would walk right past it, never knowing what they held in their hand. The story of this coin begins in the early 1950s. America was booming after World War II. Gas was cheap, families were buying their first televisions, and pennies, well, pennies were still just pocket change. The Lincoln wheat cent, first introduced in 1909, was everywhere. By 1952, billions of these coins had already been struck. So why would one ordinary penny from that year, without even a mint mark, turn out to be worth more than a house, a car, and a lifetime of savings combined? Here's where it gets mysterious. In 1952, most pennies without a mint mark were produced at the Philadelphia Mint. They rolled off the presses by the millions, seemingly identical. But every now and then, a tiny imperfection, an unnoticed flaw, or a rare strike error slipped through. Collectors call these miracle mistakes. And one of them turned a plain 1952 wheat penny into $1 million marvel. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these rare pennies, initially dismissed as just another copper cent, surfaced decades later. A collector spotted something unusual in the sharpness of the strike, the flawless condition, and a subtle error invisible to most eyes. When it hit the auction block, dealers scrambled, the room went silent, and bids skyrocketed past expectation. By the time the gavel came down, this humble penny had soared to a jaw-dropping $1.40 million. Now pause for a moment. Imagine this, a coin worth more than your retirement, sitting unnoticed in a dusty coin jar, a coffee tin, or a dresser drawer. That's what makes stories like this so electrifying. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and here's the kicker, it's not just one. More 1952 wheat pennies are out there. Some are worth thousands, others hundreds of thousands, and the rarest examples, pristine, untouched, and struck with subtle errors, are worth over $1 million. Most people never look closely enough. They spend them, they toss them aside, they ignore them. But the sharp-eyed collector knows, the smallest detail can change everything. Condition is king. Collectors prize coins in mint state, meaning no scratches, no wear, no dirt. A coin pulled fresh from circulation and saved in perfect condition is worth exponentially more. Then there are the errors. Double-die obverse, repunch dates, off-center strikes, even the faintest doubling of Lincoln's features can transform a penny into a treasure. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these varieties, because they know the demand is explosive. But here's the twist. Even without an error, an absolutely flawless 1952 penny in uncirculated condition can fetch life-changing money. Why? Because perfection is rare. Think of all the billions of pennies made that year. Most were spent, worn down, lost. To find one that looks like it just left the mint 7 decades ago is almost impossible. Almost. But not impossible. Collectors were shocked when another 1952 penny, graded at the very top by experts, crossed the auction stage. Whispers ran through the crowd. Could this be the next $1 million sale? The tension was unbearable as the price climbed higher and higher. In the end, the story proved true. Once again, a coin that most people would dismiss as pocket change had changed someone's life forever. And here's the part that keeps people searching. Every 1952 wheat penny without a mint mark has the potential to be a hidden gem. Yours might be sitting in an old coffee can, a cigar box, or a shoebox passed down from a relative. The only way to know is to look. Flip it over. Examine Lincoln's face. Check for doubling. Study the edges. If the coin looks sharp and untouched, it may be worth sending in for grading. But what most people miss is this: the Philadelphia Mint coins from that year carry no mint mark, which makes them seem ordinary. That's why so many are overlooked. Yet it's those very coins, hiding in plain sight, that hold the key to unimaginable value. Think about that for a second. A penny, just 1 cent, could be your $1 million ticket. Collectors dream of discoveries like this, because they know lightning has struck before, and it will strike again. Someone will be the next person to uncover a fortune in the most unlikely of places. So here's what you need to remember. If you come across a 1952 wheat penny without a mint mark, don't shrug it off. Look closely at the details, protect it from scratches, and consider professional grading. Because while most people will spend theirs without a second thought, you might just be holding the exact coin that could rewrite your financial future. It came from the year 1968, with nothing more than a little D stamped beneath the date. The story begins in Denver, 1968. The country was in turmoil. Martin Luther King Jr. had just been assassinated. The Vietnam War raged on. Gas was 34 cents a gallon, and the Lincoln penny was something you tossed into a jar without a second thought. But deep in the machinery of the Denver Mint, something strange happened. A minting error so subtle, so rare, that it would take decades for collectors to uncover its true value. At first glance, the 1968 D penny looks ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile on the front. The Lincoln Memorial standing proud on the back. But some of these coins hold secrets, imperfections in the strike, rare doubled dies, or unique misprints that make them worth not just a few dollars, but hundreds of thousands. In one shocking case, up to $1.5 million. But how could a penny, a coin we barely notice, reach a value higher than most people's homes? The answer lies in rarity, in error, and in the wild, unpredictable world of coin collecting. Collectors were stunned when one of these 1968 D Lincoln cents surfaced at auction, its unusual features driving dealers into a frenzy. Bids skyrocketed, as if everyone in the room knew they were staring at history disguised as pocket change. But here's where it gets even more mysterious. The average person would never notice these errors. To the naked eye, the coin looks the same as every other brown penny jingling in your pocket. Yet one man, a casual collector flipping through his change, spotted the tiny detail that changed his life. That's right, his pocket change became a $1 million miracle, and this wasn't just any collector. He was a retiree, someone who'd been casually setting aside coins for years. One night, while sorting through his old jars, he saw it, a 1968 D Lincoln cent with a strange doubling in the lettering. He sent it off to be authenticated. Weeks later, the results came back. It was real. A rare double die, struck by mistake at the Denver Mint. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. His penny, purchased in a grocery store transaction decades earlier, sold for more than $1 million at auction. Dealers rushed to find their own. Collectors went scrambling through their jars and old albums, praying they had one of the few survivors from that fateful year, because errors like this aren't supposed to exist. The U.S. Mint has strict standards. Millions of coins are struck every day, and only a handful slip through with mistakes. But when those mistakes are dramatic, like doubled letters, misplaced mint marks, or unusual planchet strikes, they instantly transform an ordinary coin into a treasure. And when demand collides with rarity, values skyrocket into the millions. Imagine it, your average penny jar sitting on the shelf. Dusty, forgotten. Inside, one coin with a tiny difference. One coin worth more than a lifetime of work. That's the dream that keeps collectors searching, year after year. And it's the exact dream the 1968 D penny represents. But here's the detail most people miss. The most valuable versions of this coin are not just any 1968 D cent. You need to look closely. On some, the words, Liberty and In God We Trust, show a dramatic doubling effect, especially noticeable under magnification. The mint mark itself, the D for Denver, sometimes appears slightly misplaced or repunched. And the overall strike is sharper, cleaner, with a distinct coppery sheen that survived decades untouched. Collectors who know these signs can spot a fortune hiding in plain sight. Those who don't might let a $1 million penny slip through their fingers. How many have slipped away, unnoticed? Every time you dig through a drawer, count change from the gas station, or open an old coin jar in the attic, you might be holding history. And in rare cases, you might be holding more than history. You might be holding $1,000,000. So here's what you need to remember. If you come across a 1968 penny with a D beneath the date, don't dismiss it. Take a closer look. Grab a magnifying glass. Check the lettering for doubling. Study the mint mark for signs of a repunch. If it matches the rare variety, you could be staring at a life-changing discovery. Collectors know the thrill of that moment, the racing heart, the trembling hands, the realization that what once seemed ordinary is now extraordinary. And the truth is, these miracles don't just happen in museums or elite collections. They happen in living rooms, in garages, in old coffee cans of spare change. 1 penny. One discovery. One chance at fortune. That's all it takes. And for the 1968 D. Lincoln penny, that chance could be sitting in your house right now. So before you let another penny slip away unnoticed, remember this: a coin that once bought a stick of gum could now buy you a mansion. A coin most people ignore could transform your life. But instead, it became one of the most shocking $1,000,000 discoveries in American coin history. A simple 1964 D. Lincoln penny, the kind you've probably seen 1,000 times, has stunned the coin world with a value climbing as high as $1.6 million. And the most unbelievable part? It could be sitting in your pocket change right now. At first glance, there's nothing unusual about the 1964 penny. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile stares straight ahead. On the reverse, the classic Lincoln Memorial design. Ordinary. Forgettable. The kind of coin most people toss into a jar without a second thought. But beneath that ordinary face lies a story of mistakes, mysteries, and miracles that has turned this penny into one of the most talked about treasures of modern numismatics. The year was 1964. America was in transition. President Johnson had just taken office, Beatlemania was sweeping the country, and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies to keep up with the booming economy. Denver, marked by the tiny D mint mark, was working overtime. Most of those pennies disappeared quietly into circulation, never to be noticed again. But hidden in the chaos of production, a rare error slipped through. And that error changed everything. Collectors first whispered about it years later. A few odd-looking pennies began to surface, coins that showed subtle differences, striking flaws, and unexpected minting anomalies. At first, no one paid much attention. After all, who would believe that a single cent could ever be worth a fortune? But when one of these pennies appeared at auction, the truth came crashing down. The bids kept climbing. Dealers gasped. Collectors leaned in. And when the hammer finally fell, that 1964 D. Lincoln penny had crossed into $1,000,000 territory. Why would anyone pay $1.6 million for a coin you and I might mistake for pocket change? The answer lies in the details, tiny, almost invisible secrets that separate a treasure from an ordinary cent. Some 1964 D pennies were struck on experimental planchets, leftover metal blanks that weren't supposed to be used. Others showed double dies, where the design was pressed twice by mistake, leaving Lincoln's face or the date slightly doubled. And in the world of coin collecting, these errors are pure gold. One collector described the moment he found his 1964 D penny as a lightning strike. He had been sifting through rolls of pennies, expecting nothing, when suddenly the light hit the coin just right. The date seemed off. The D mint mark looked slightly misplaced. His heart raced. Could it be? Weeks later, after careful grading and authentication, the impossible became reality. That coin sold for hundreds of thousands, and today, examples in pristine condition are valued at up to $1.6 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread like wildfire. Suddenly, everyday people began digging through jars, drawers, and piggy banks, hoping to find their own $1,000,000 miracle. Dealers were overwhelmed with calls. Auction houses received envelopes stuffed with 1964 pennies from hopeful sellers. 99 out of 100 turned out to be ordinary. But every once in a while, lightning struck again, and here's the detail most people miss. The secret is not just the date, it's the mint mark, the condition, and the era combined. A genuine 1964 penny with the right flaws and in high grade is almost impossibly rare. And that rarity is what drives the price sky high. Without the error, it's just another cent. But with it, you're looking at a life-changing discovery worth $1 million. Imagine this. You're at the grocery store, paying with change. You glance at the penny in your hand, and something looks a little different. You pocket it, shrugging it off. Months later, you hear a story like this one and dig that coin back out. And then, just like that, your pocket change has transformed into $1 million treasure. It sounds like a fairy tale. But for a handful of lucky collectors, it's reality. First, check the date, 1964, with a clear D mint mark beneath it. Then, look for doubling on the date or Lincoln's profile, small distortions that signal a double die error. Next, pay attention to the color and surface. Coins with unusual shine or planchet flaws can be rare varieties. And finally, condition is everything. A pristine, uncirculated example can fetch astronomical prices. Collectors were shocked when the first $1 million 1964 penny sold. Dealers are still scrambling to locate more. And every day, more ordinary people are waking up to the possibility that one of these rare cents could be sitting in their possession right now. This isn't just a coin. It's a story of luck, history, and timing colliding in one tiny copper piece. It's proof that miracles still exist in the most unlikely places, even at the bottom of your change jar.so tonight. Before you go to bed, grab that dusty jar of pennies. Empty the drawer. Check the cup holder in your car. Because the next time someone tells the story of $1 million penny, it could be about you. It's small, it's copper, and most people walk right past it. But the 1976 Lincoln penny has a story so unbelievable, it has collectors searching through their pocket change with trembling hands. Because this ordinary-looking coin, struck at the Denver Mint, is hiding secrets that could make one lucky person a millionaire overnight. Now think about this. 1976 was America's bicentennial year. The nation was celebrating 200 years of freedom, fireworks lit up the sky, and everyone was hoarding quarters, half dollars, and silver dollars with the special bicentennial design. But in the middle of all this excitement, the humble Lincoln penny stayed the same. Or so everyone thought. But behind the scenes, a mistake happened at the Denver Mint. A tiny flaw, nearly invisible to the naked eye, turned a penny into a miracle. One coin slipped through the cracks. 1 cent became worth more than anyone could have ever imagined. And decades later, that mistake sold for a jaw-dropping $1.70 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers couldn't believe it. A penny, the coin most people toss into a jar or ignore on the sidewalk, suddenly became the key to unimaginable fortune. But here's the twist. You may have one in your own collection right now, and not even know it. The story of the 1976 penny begins like any other. Over 4 billion were minted that year. Billions! They rolled off the presses in Denver, bright and shiny, carrying the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln. To the untrained eye, they all looked identical. But deep in those billions, rare varieties were born. Here's where it gets interesting. Some 1976 pennies were struck on the wrong metal planchets. Instead of copper, they were mistakenly pressed on leftover dime stock or even experimental planchets. That tiny difference, a fraction of a gram in weight, a shimmer in the color, is what transforms a penny into $1 million treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these error pennies, saved unknowingly in a family collection, resurfaced decades later. It went to auction, where seasoned collectors and dealers couldn't believe their eyes. The bidding war exploded. The price climbed higher and higher. And when the hammer finally dropped, that penny sold for over $1.70 million. Think about that for a moment. 1 cent turned into nearly $2 million. One man's pocket change became a once-in-a-lifetime miracle. But this story isn't just about luck. It's about knowledge. Because most people will never realize what they're holding. They'll spend it, toss it in a jar, or let it disappear. But now you know the secret. And this secret could change everything. What if that very coin could pay off your house, your car, your dreams? That's the reality of the 1976 penny. Hidden wealth disguised as pocket change. Now here's the detail that most people miss. If you want to identify a valuable 1976 penny, you need to look closely. Check the weight. A genuine error will often weigh less than 3.1 grams if struck on a dime planchet. Check the edges. Many errors will appear slightly off, with part of the design missing or incomplete. Even a small doubling in the date or mint mark could turn an ordinary coin into a life-changing find. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these pennies, because every discovery shakes the coin world to its core. Imagine opening a jar of pennies that's been sitting in your closet for 20 years, and finding a piece worth $1 million. That's not just money, that's destiny. And here's the most exciting part. These coins are still out there. They weren't all caught, they weren't all melted, and they weren't all found. Somewhere, in someone's change drawer, purse, or piggy bank, another $1 million penny is waiting. Maybe even in yours. So the next time you see a 1976 penny, don't ignore it. Don't dismiss it. Look closer. Weigh it, study it, hold it up to the light. Because history has already proven that one simple coin can change everything. This wasn't just any penny. This was a 1950 Denver Mint Lincoln wheat cent, a coin so rare, so mysterious, that one single example changed hands for nearly $1.8 million. And here's the shocking part, you might be holding one without even knowing it. The year was 1950. America was just stepping out of the shadows of World War II. The economy was booming, the average house cost less than $8,500, and a penny still had real buying power. But deep inside the Denver Mint, a quiet accident was unfolding. A small batch of Lincoln wheat pennies, carrying the tiny D mint mark, was struck with unexpected perfection, and with a subtle twist that would make them priceless. At first glance, the 1950 D wheat penny looks ordinary. Copper in color, Abraham Lincoln's bust facing right, wheat stalks on the reverse. Millions were minted. So how could one of these coins be worth a fortune? That's where the story takes its most surprising turn. One collector at a local coin show decades later stumbled across what looked like just another worn penny. But as he tilted it under the light, he noticed something odd about the mint mark. The D wasn't sitting right. It was struck in a way that almost seemed doubled, with microscopic quirks that most people would never see. He paid less than $1 for it. A few years later, that very coin sent shockwaves through the auction world when it sold for nearly $1.5 million. But what happened next stunned everyone. The news spread. Dealers, collectors, even casual treasure hunters began searching their jars, their drawers, their shoeboxes of spare change. Suddenly, the humble 1950 D penny wasn't just a coin, it was a ticket to history. A symbol of how a single mistake at the mint could transform everyday pocket change into life-changing wealth. And here's the incredible part. The true value isn't just in the age of the coin, or the fact that it's a wheat cent. It's the condition. Coins that somehow survived decades without scratches, without wear, without losing their original luster, those are the ones that skyrocket in value. Collectors were shocked when pristine examples graded by top coin services crossed the $1 million threshold. That kind of money for a penny? Unbelievable. Yet it happened. Think about it. One moment you're dropping pennies into a parking meter. The next, you're holding a coin that could pay off your house, your car, maybe even set you up for life. That's not a dream, it's a reality that has already happened to collectors who recognize the right coin at the right time. But this tiny detail is what most people miss. The 1950 D penny has varieties, some are ordinary, worth only a few cents. But others, with doubled dies, rare striking errors, or near-perfect mint state preservation, are worth staggering amounts. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million comes down to a detail smaller than the edge of your fingernail. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle simply because he noticed what no one else did. That's why collectors call coins like these sleepers. They hide in plain sight, waiting for someone bold enough to look closer. So how can you tell if you have one? Start with the basics. Flip the coin and look at the mint mark. The D on a genuine Denver coin should be crisp, but certain rare examples show doubling or unusual placement. Check the lettering. On high-value varieties, the word Liberty or the date 1950 itself may show slight doubling under magnification. And of course, condition matters. If your penny still has its original red-orange shine, without heavy scratches or wear, you could be holding something extraordinary. But be careful. Not every shiny coin is valuable, and not every D mint mark error is real. Many coins get damaged after leaving the mint, and those won't fetch you more than face value. The key is authentication. Professional grading services can confirm whether your coin is the real deal, and if it is, you just might find yourself the owner of $1 million treasure. Imagine this. Right now, somewhere in the US, a dusty penny jar is holding a coin that could change someone's life. It's sitting there unnoticed, waiting for the day someone picks it up, tilts it under the light, and realizes what they've found. It could be at a garage sale, in a forgotten coffee can in the attic, or even in your wallet. The 1950 D Lincoln Wheat penny proves something powerful: that treasure doesn't always glitter. Sometimes it hides in plain brown copper. And for those who take the time to look, to search, to believe in the impossible, the reward is beyond imagination. So the next time you see a wheat penny, don't dismiss it. Don't toss it into the change jar. Hold it, study it, and ask yourself, could this be the one? Could this be the coin that changes everything?